So if you see very carefully, uh, it is the in general, Aristotelian style is cryptic, condensed, and it is elusive. And that's why you will find out Poetics contains many passages which are more than usually obscure, and that's why the notes and the commentary made on that particular text is required. Now, let me bring certain things into notice of most of you. If you see it very carefully, this situation has a paradoxical consequences also. That the works which did most to disseminate Aristotle's ideas on poetry in ancient world, it was based on three books. When Aristotle talks on the ideas of poetry, he took support of three books. Number one, on poets, which was written in the form of dialogues, as Plato's Republic was written in the form of dialogue. Questions were asked by the students, and teacher is answering to those questions. In that way, the whole process of writing the book took place. And second is the six books of Homeric problems, which discussed passages in Homer, which was discussed the fault in Homer's writing, discussed by various critics, that Homer faulted by critics as implausible, inconsistent, or morally improper. And that's why you'll find out that the Poetics itself does not seem to have been widely known in antiquity, but by contrast, since Renaissance, its influence on literary theorists and critics has been very massive. But the obscurities of the text have left it open to a wide range of conflicting interpretations of the text. And that's why you will find out there have been, and still, and still, there are fundamental disagreements about the meaning of certain key concepts like hamartia or catharsis, because every commentator had tried to bring his own interpretation of those key concepts. Now, the historic influence of the Poetics is one reason why its merits continued attention of most of the Western thinkers. Western thinking about poetry and drama from 16th century onwards will be obscure to those who are unfamiliar with this text. If it is possible to take an interest in the variety of meanings which this text has had for successive generations of the readers, we need to understand that, because if we are able to understand the meanings, what the meanings of the key concepts Aristotle had tried to bring out, if we can able to point out those, then and then it is possible for us to get very close with the Western thinking of poetry. There is one more reason that if we study poetics very well, if we understand poetics very well, then this text will help us to a better understanding of Greek tragedy also. We have in the Poetics an analysis of tragedy by an intelligent and well informed observer who was much closer chronologically and culturally to those plays of Sophocles, of Euripides, Achilles, because we haven't seen their performances, we haven't seen their original writing. And for understanding of these tragedies, we require a support of Aristotle's poetics. To be sure, with one thing, that Aristotle was not directly or was not direct contemporary of the great 5th centurion Greek tragedians. Because if you, as we have discussed when we were talking about drama last semester, we come to know about how the whole Greek society was directly or indirectly involved into making of the plays, making of the drama, making of those great tragedies. And Aristotle, who was aware of all these writings, he was interested in understanding of tragedy, whether that tragedy was faultless or uncontroversial. And it is widely accepted that he failed to appreciate fully the significance of gods in 5th century tragedy. And it is clear from polemical remarks in the Poetics itself that his views on number of issues diverged from those of some at least of his contemporaries. He never followed the ideas of his contemporaries either or his predecessors. And that's why we must show a due caution in using poetics as an aid to understand the nature of Greek tragedy. But that is true that we cannot neglect the reasons given by Aristotle in Poetics when he talked about tragedy also. Now, another important reason why the Poetics is worth studying closely is simply because the quality of its thought. Aristotle had an exceptionally penetrating and subtle intellect in writing all these texts. Concepts and arguments which at first seem impenetrable often prove to make certain illuminating sense when further reflections bring to light the rationale behind writing it. Remember, friends, Aristotle's Poetics is nothing but a rewarding text to understand and study. And that's why you will find out that Aristotle, in bringing out this text, is interested in making certain Greek ideas very clear to its audience and to the readers. Once again, I'll repeat the fact that this is not the original translations available for us of Aristotelian text. It is the translation of a translation. Now, if you want to understand the premise of Aristotle's understanding of what it is to be a human, we have to understand the we have to look at the opening sentence of metaphysics. And the opening sentence of metaphysics is all human beings by nature desire knowledge. I'll repeat the sentence once again. The opening sentence of metaphysics, which surely states a fundamental premise of Aristotle's understanding of what is to be a human. All human beings by nature desire knowledge. Now, he points out as evidence for his claim the pleasure we take in looking at things and assimilating information through our senses. Whatever things gives us pleasure, we try to understand that thing more carefully. Now remember one thing, what is then the difference between human and animal? Sensation is of course shared with many other animals, including humans also. And the accretion of sensation through memory, through memory, accretion of sensation through memory into experience is shared with some animals only. I'll repeat it once again. Sensation is, of course, to each and every animal existing on this planet. Everyone is having some sort of sensations. But if you look into certain animals, apart from sensation, those animals, what happen? Those animals uh, collect those sensations through. They can have the understanding of those sensations through memory. They keep all those things into their memory. Suppose, let me put in these simple words for you. When we were kids, and if you are going close to fire, you don't know what exactly this fire means by how it will hurt you. You don't know anything when you were kid, and you go close to the fire, you try to touch it, and once you touch it, you find that this fire will hurt you, it will burn your finger, and that's why you get away from the fire. And from that moment onwards, throughout your life, till your death, you never try to enter into fire once again, because the experience which you gathered through that sensation remains forever with you. And that's why you come to know. Because when we were kid, we got certain experiences, we got certain touch, we experienced that particular feeling with a sort of sensation, with our touch, a sense. There are five basic senses of human beings. So those sense, accretion of sensation through memory, because your memory had stored the thing that, okay, if I touch to this particular fire, it will burn my finger, so I need not to touch this. That is what an experience taught you. This remains constantly in your memory, so naturally you are not going to do this, repeat the things again and again in your future life. So this is only with some animals, not all the animals having the same sort of sensations. But human are unique in their capacity. Apart from all these things, there is one uniqueness of human being, and the uniqueness of human being is that humans are unique in their capacity to derive universal judgment from their experiences. And this is what we can say, it's a universal judgment, that if you touch to the fire, it will burn your finger. There is a universal judgment. This universal judgment derived after this experience. We don't know who experienced first in this world. Very interestingly, if I say that we don't know who was the first man who tasted the food and gave its name to it, who was the first person, we don't know. But if some name of any sweet, any food is taken, you immediately understand its taste. Without testing it, without keeping that thing into your mouth, you understand its taste. If I say it's a chocolate, you need not to say that chocolate is going to be sweet. Now, this was an universal judgment that chocolate is a sweet. Or any sweeteners, mithais, you used to get it. Cookies, or any sort of, if I say mango, you are having your own taste of mango. Now, you haven't kept that mango into your mouth, but it's a universal judgment that it needs to be a sweet thing. That means we have gathered the whole experiences and reached to a universal judgment from those experiences. There's another interesting difference between animal and human beings. Animal Animals act by instinct or certain acquired habit. Animals have acquired certain habits and their instinct teach them the things. But humans are capable of acting from understanding that particular thing. We try to understand it. We try to understand the whole process. That as, for example, as a dog might know that how to deal in this particular situation, but if a man is in the same situation, the man will come to a particular conclusion after a certain moment that he should take certain decision on it. He'll try to get out of that. how to get over certain things, man can easily derive, man can easily find out that thing. But animal can't. Now, this particular thing that humans are capable of acting from understanding, they know that this is the thing to do in certain situation, but they also understand that why they are doing this particular thing. They have their own rationale for it. And this is what Aristotle calls in Greek as techne, Tekhne, techne. Conventionally, the word is Greek and it is conventionally translated as craft, skill, or art. This was conventionally translated. Okay, techne, the Greek word, is conventionally translated as craft, skill, or art. But Aristotle defines techne as a productive capacity informed by an understanding of its intrinsic rationale. I'll repeat it once again. Aristotle defines techne, Tekhne. Aristotle defines techne as a productive capacity informed by an understanding of its intrinsic rationale. That it means by techne. As I've explained earlier in a simple words. Suppose you are caught in certain situation. Let me give a very simple contemporary example to you to understand what exactly it means by techne. Suppose you are on your bike going somewhere and you jumped a signal and all of a sudden a traffic police comes in front of you and stops you and asks you that why you jumped a signal. Now you understand the thing that okay, you committed a mistake. It is not correct, it is wrong, you have to pay penalty for it. What will you do at that time? You understand that thing immediately, and with your productive capacity your mind starts informing you to react in certain sense, and then you start making your own excuses that sir, because I have not seen that signal and that's why I jumped it, or I haven't able to get it because someone is in front of me, and you try to avoid all those things. Now you are giving your own rationale to it, you are justifying all these actions. Now this justification, this taking of an immediate rationale understanding of its intrinsic rationale, you are simply informing all those things. This is your capacity. That Aristotle calls it as techne, that is a productive capacity informed by an understanding of its intrinsic rationale. And that's why for Aristotle, the evolution of human culture is in large part of evolution of techne. Understand this very interesting thing that Aristotle is talking about. What Aristotle is telling, that the human, the evolution of human culture is in large part of the evolution of techne, that humans started to understand the intrinsic rationale of certain thing, and they try to produce that information that makes human culture to develop. Look into anthropology, watch the caves where human earlier used to reside. They made certain figures, producing their ideas that okay, this is the way that we can kill an animal and eat it. How we can simply cook the food. That is very interesting, my friends. To uh, we even today, till today, nobody was able to find out that who was the first person who started the idea of cooking the raw food. That raw food cooked, who started to put water into a flour and just simply make it into convert it into a bread. Who was that particular first person who started to give an idea about test, that this is what this test should be called this and this test should be called this. This is nothing but what Aristotle calls it as techne, that it is a product produced productive capacity. We have a productive capacity. Humans have productive capacity with an intrinsic rationale. It has got its own rationale. Why you are producing this? You have got your own rationale. Why you are doing this? You have your own rationale. For every idea, we have our own rationale of explaining all those things. And that's why the human culture is in large part the evolution of techne. The first art which human being developed, the first arts, initial arts, which human being developed were those concerned with producing the necessities for their existence. What are the things we require for our existence? That was the first understanding of human being. That's why he entered into the caves. He understood his own necessity, that what it requires. What did he want? And this understanding, what are the necessities of their existence? Those necessities of existence are the first arts. Now, why, if you remember my yesterday's argument, that what Plato said, that every creative person who imagines the things need to be keep out of an ideal state. If this creativity, if human being for their own existence created something, that means every human being is creative in himself. Every human being is creative. As we say that every relation is based on politics. You cannot say that the relationship is I'm not a politician. No, every human being is a politician. Similarly, every human being is a creative genius. He or she creates thing, but that creativity may not be recognized by other person, but he is creative, and that creativity helped us to develop human culture. Otherwise, we will not will leave someone like an animals. Look, if it's heavy raining, or nowadays if it's in heavy cold, what the animals used to do and what human beings do. Human can lit up the fire and sit beside that bonfire and try to get some warmness out of it, but the animals can't. They get close to each other, they try to simply get close to each other, they don't understand how to get out of this critical situation human can have. And that what human is having this productive capacity, what Aristotle calls it as technique. So the first arts, please understand, the first arts which human beings develop were those things concerned with their existence, necessities of their existence, which are the things necessary for their existence. Human beings created those things at first. Now, once those things are created, in a very colloquial term, if I say it is, once the kitchen is created, once the kitchen is created, kitchen is the basic uh, source of every house of which you get energy. That's why if you think that kitchen is not important, please refresh yourself that kitchen is the most important part of human life, where you cook something for your own energy. You require a good sleep. When you will get good sleep? If your stomach is full, then you can have a good sleep. Then you can think. If you are hungry, you can't think. And that's why the first arts of human were concerned with the necessities for their existence. Then came the recreational arts. Once this requirement is fulfilled, then come the recreational arts. What are those recreational arts? Those which not so necessary. Please understand this. While not necessary, they enhance. Again, I am saying those are not that much essential. Recreational arts are not that much necessary, but these recreational arts, they enhance the quality of human life. Okay, please understand for a moment. Please find out in your own life for a moment. If you don't have recreational art, what will happen to you? Nothing. Nothing is going to happen if you don't have any recreational arts in your life. But if you have, this will enhance your life. And in due course, activities simply satisfied our desire. Those activities, please remember, make a differentiate, or you have to differentiate between the two words, necessity and desire. We are not satisfied. We are having lots of desire with us. What is our desire? Very minimum thing. Now, when you are sitting in a classroom, you are having a desire that, okay, I want to get some good marks for getting some job. Why you want a job? You want a job for living a good life. Why you want to live good life? What is the definition of good life? That a good house with a good family. Now, once you are getting a good house, then you want something. If you are having two-wheeler, you feel that, okay, I want four-wheeler. If you are having four-wheeler, you say that I want to upgrade this four-wheeler. If you are having this upgraded four-wheeler, you think that, okay, I should go beyond this. Now if I'm traveling in a car, I should travel by train. If I'm traveling by train, I will travel by air, and what not. Every time we are trying to develop it because our desires are making us to get the things done again and again. Our desires, we are not satisfied with our desires. That's why desire, simply to satisfy the desire to know. Aristotle's example, what Aristotle gives an example is of mathematics. That's what I said, calculating the things in your life. That is what Aristotle used to point out in his Poetics. You're calculating the things in your life. You want one, then you want more. You want, if you are two, you want four. If you are four, you want eight. You want to multiply the things. You want to add the things in your. You are having. You can sustain. You can survive with your own one or two dress in your life. But are you satisfied with one or two dresses in your life? No. Nowadays, this postmodern man, after every week, he tries to get a new shopping. He enters into the shopping. Nowadays, you are going by online shopping, surfing the things. Are you not shopping? During the lockdown, most of the people they tried to enter into Amazon and try to serve the things because our desire is, if it's a calculation. If I am having one thing, I want to add into it. So I'm not happy. I'm not satisfied with one thing. I want to add into it, and that's why I want one. Okay, that's why there's a desire, and ultimately, when human simply want to satisfy the desire to know, the philosophy emerged. The emergence of philosophy is nothing but the activities which arose simply to satisfy the desire to know. Why philosophy? And remember one thing, my friends, philosophy is nothing but primary part of science. That's why if somebody says you that you are studying Masters of Arts English, you have what is the relationship of science with this of you? No, philosophy is the basic source of science. And what is philosophy? Why philosophy emerged? What Aristotle says, philosophy emerged simply because the necessities which or activities which arose to satisfy our desire to know, activities which we used to do, that makes the philosophy to emerge. And philosophy is rooted in the basic human instinct to seek knowledge. Philosophy is rooted in the basic human instinct to seek knowledge. The world puzzles us and arouse our senses of wonder. And once it arouses our senses of wonder, it prompts us to look for explanation of it. If you have seen in early morning when sun is rising, look at its first phase of the sun when it is rising. You can see with your naked eyes. Because you know science, because you know the things very well, because you are familiar with the things, you can able to explain it that okay, this is what is coming, a fireball coming from the east up and up is called as sun, you know it. But remember, but imagine for a moment that the person first time who is looking this fireball coming from east up into the sky, what would be or what was his feeling at that time? And the primitive man who didn't know exactly that what this should be called as, and looking at that fireball, awfully looking towards it, it's a wonder for him, and that's why he's trying to seek certain logic behind it and try to get certain understanding and explanation out of it. And if he is not getting any explanation for it, if it is beyond his explanation, he has given certain word to it. Maybe that certain word, if I say in a very common term, that certain word maybe it is beyond my capacity, that if it is beyond my capacity, then it is supernatural. And that's why he started praying the God. And that's why he started praying the Son. Because he is powerful than me, because I don't know. I am operated by my own legs, but how this round ball of fire is moving. when this fireball gets down, when the sun is set, the darkness is appearing. Naturally, that creates a big question mark in front of those people who saw that particular phase. How do they feel at that time? And that's why to look for an explanation, because certain things in the world puzzles us, and that makes the scientists to develop certain scientific things into the world. Every apple falls on the earth, but the one apple which falls on Newton's head made him to wonder that why it is falling down. He started to research and he wanted to search the explanation for it and found that there is a force of gravitation. That means this idea of gravitation comes because the world puzzles us and it arouses our sense of wonder, and so it prompts us to look for an explanation. And that's why philosophy is therefore the sophisticated descendant of primitive myth making responses to an astonishing world. Why primitive man, primitives, primitive human had developed myths? Because for this astonishing world, it was impossible for the primitive man to get some sort of explanation for it, and that's why he has converted that explanation into myth. And there are lots of myth. If you don't have any explanation for certain thing, that thing later on in the society is converted into a myth. And that's why you will find out, my friends, philosophy is therefore the sophisticated descendant of primitive myth making responses to an astonishing world. And Aristotle is trying to sketch of human culture, which is relevant in number of ways to the poetics. He tried to sketch the human culture in this particular text. This is a little bit heavy text, but I am trying to make it as simple as possible. So that's why you find out, my friends, that the birth of philosophy, the idea of techne that Aristotle discussed in his poetics. We'll continue this thing in tomorrow's or in Monday's lecture. I hope that there is a break of 1 or 2 minutes. Is it so, my friends? Is it clear to you? You're responding. Is it clear? Clear to what I talked about today, techne and how the philosophy emerged? Is there any confusion? Yeah, please ask. Aristotle has taken Homer's books, Homer, and then critics who wrote on Homer's writing. These were the three books on poets, number one. Number two, Homer's book, and the critics who wrote on Homer's writing. These three texts, Aristotle took support for discussing certain things in poetics. Apart from the three tragedians, Aeschylus, Sophocles, and Euripides. Okay. Anything else? Anything else, friends? Monday, my friend. We'll meet on Monday. Monday to Saturday. Okay. Prashant, how long I was not audible? For how long I was not audible? Okay. Then I'm uploading this today also. So you can have that uploaded lecture also to you. Okay. So we'll end our class today. Thank you. We'll meet on Monday. We have enrolled students, but 15. Okay. Friends, to at least. Hmm? So see you on Monday at 10:30.